What is up, guys? Welcome back to Let's Draw. I'm your host, BJ Dell, and in today's new video, I'm going to talk about what goes into picking a color palette when it's time to color in a new design. I'm going to walk you through my complete thought process, touch a little bit on color theory, and show you all the steps that I take when it's time to pick those colors. So, if you want to learn all about that and more, keep watching. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the video today. As always, I'm using the iPad Pro. This is a Gen 4 2020 model, 12.9-inch, Gen 2 Apple Pencil. The app is Procreate, and today's video is going to cover how I approach picking a color palette for a new design. I've had a lot of people ask for this, and we're going to use this design that I did in last week's video where I talked about how I approach character design, my thought process, my whole kind of flow from beginning to end. So I'll link that up in a card up top for that video. If you guys missed out on that one, definitely hop back and check that one out. But this guy's going to be a mascot for my channel. So we're going to start out kind of like we did in that previous video. And I talked about using Google image search. That you can use this kind of as a jumping off point to kind of see what's been done before. You can pinpoint what works, what doesn't work, just by using some already existing art out there. Like I said in that previous video, though, and I'll stress this again here, make sure that you're coming up with original stuff, that's your own ideas. Don't copy anybody's work. Just use this for some kind of guidance and some inspiration if you need it. So starting out here, just looking at the color schemes that I see, of course, a lot of gray on the screen right now. If we start up here in this corner, you see just a pretty basic gray raccoon, pretty dark mask here, kind of light gray, almost white belly. This one here is just tons of different shades of gray. There's really no other colors in there, just different values of that gray hue there. So that looks pretty plain and basic. And then going over here, you see these two here kind of have more of a cool tone to them. They've got that kind of blue-gray going on. So I like that it's different than all these other just plain grays. And then, of course, we have the browns here too, which those stick out on the page. I think, number one, they're a little bit warmer of a color, but two, against all these grays, those are definitely bound to stick out. So I don't really want to go with a brown color. I want to stick with that gray kind of palette, but at the same time, I don't want to go with the basic grays like these. And I think going with the blue is just a little bit too cool. So going with these browns, kind of combining that with the gray and going for a warm gray, I think is the route that I want to go. So we've got different colors. Of course, we've got warm colors, we've got cool colors. So let's hop back here to Procreate and we can talk more about that. I'm going to go up here to my layers, and you'll see here I've got my Let's Draw with BJ Dell logo here. I've already brought that in. We're going to turn it off for right now, though, and we're going to talk about these colors. So with warm colors, basically anything here from the yellows down to the reds, this is going to be your warm colors, the yellows, the oranges, and the reds. And then anything over here with the greens and the blues, this is going to be more of your cool color. So you can see here, if I drag inside the color picker and just go all the way over, watch this color select up here. As I drag the wheel around, you're going to see that doesn't change at all. That's just your basic gray. But we can also get warm grays. We can get cool grays. With warm colors, they're going to be a little bit more exciting, stimulating. There's going to be more just, of course, warmth to them because they're warm. And then with the cool colors, they're going to be a little bit more calming. And I think with this guy, I want him to have those warm tones just because I want him to do some zany stuff, and I want that color palette to really kind of tie into the personality that I want to give him. So that's why I'm going with those warm grays. So that's my thought process behind picking just the overall theme. So let's go ahead and switch over here. So now we're in the warm section. And then you'll see as we drop down here to the grays, now that we're not off to the side here, if you watch this color up here, it's going to start to turn. The further in we bring it, the more it's going to turn there. You can see the values are changing a lot more around there. So let's go back to this orange and maybe get a color in here and see exactly how this is going to look. So now we're ready to color. I've gone over this portion before, so if you guys have watched videos previously on my channel, you know how I color in Procreate, but if this is your first time, number one, welcome. Number two, I'll go over this really quick. So what I want to do here is I want to make a new layer by pressing my plus button here. I'm going to drag this underneath my lines layer here. And then the lines layer here, which of course you can rename these if you want, but we're not going to worry about that today. So this one I'm going to hit, and I'm going to set this as reference. And what this is going to do, it's going to allow us to use the lines layer as basically a reference. It's going to tell anything underneath here to use that as the jumping off point. So it's going to make it possible to drag these colors into that layer that we made underneath here. And it's going to fill in using those lines, but it's not on the same layer. So it's non-destructive as far as the lines go. So we've got a good chunk filled in there. I think this is a little bit too brown here. So this is kind of my back and forth process, is where I will go and change where the color is, the hue on the color wheel, and then go back in and change the value inside the color picker until I get exactly what I'm going for. And right now I really want to focus more and mainly on these areas that are the big parts of the body. So the head here and the ears and the body is going to be all this color. So that's going to be my main one that I'm trying to get exactly right. And I think that's pretty good. So we've got the gray, but it's not totally gray. From here, I'm going to change my background color to just this purple so you can kind of see as I fill this in. And we'll just start to drag and drop these colors in. That's not where I wanted that. So as we drag and drop these in, as you get to more complicated areas too, I covered this in a previous video. A really quick way to fill in, if you go up to your adjustments layer in Procreate and then go down to Recolor. This was the topic of a complete video that I did a few weeks ago. I will actually put that up in a card up top as well if you guys want to check that out. Just so much information being thrown at you. But you'll see here, this allows you, rather than dragging and dropping these colors in, you can just touch in here and it fills in everything really quick. So if you've got a complicated design, I wouldn't call this super complicated, but doing those fingers, there is going to be a few extra clicks there that you would need to make. I think that's a really good use of time by going up there to doing Recolor. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and get this stripe in here. Actually, no, I want to do the mask first. The mask is going to be the darkest thing on here besides the outlines. So I want to get that in here, and then we can get the stripe after that. So I'm going to drop down here, get a fairly dark color. I don't want it to be black because I want you to still be able to see the black outline here. So I think that's going to be pretty good. We'll know here in a second once we get the stripe. So the stripe, I want it to be basically in between the colors of the head and the mask. So it's going to be darker than the head, but lighter than the mask. So this is going to be kind of a back and forth playing around to make sure that it kind of fits between. You want to be able to tell the viewer, okay, yes, this is not the same color as this, and it's not the same color as this. And you don't want them to blend in. So that's the key, is making sure they don't blend in too much. I think we could maybe go, let's do just a tad bit lighter and see. And I think that's pretty good there. So you can see those are definitely different colors than the head, and then also definitely a different color than the mask. So I think that works. Then I'm going to use that same color here for the tail here. And you'll see that thumb there colored in because it was a little bit too close, I think. Or actually I had Recolor on, maybe that was why. So we'll just color in this thumb by hand here by selecting that. Go back to our stripe color here. Got to fill those back in. When you are on Recolor and you select a new color, I think that's what happened down here, was it selects and fills in anything that you were previously on. So definitely as you switch back from Recolor to dragging and dropping with the paint bucket tool, keep an eye on that. So we'll fill these in. Now the idea for the tail here is you'll see this arm right here and the fingers are overlapping this portion of the tail. So you want to make sure that it definitely is noticeable to the viewer that those are two different colors. But at the same time, this arm could be moved out further later on, you know, in a different type of pose, and it could be covering up this. So we're going to have to make sure that this color isn't too close to this color as well. So we'll know there in a second with that. Also, you can see here, accidentally colored in this area. I don't want the mouth area to be that color, so we're going to change that. I'm going to go to white here and drag and drop in some white for the eyes. So we've got that. Oops. And of course, this you could be doing with the Recolor as well. Just depends on if it's worth it time-wise going back up and hitting that. So I'll just do it like this. So there we go. We've got everything like that laid in. Let's go ahead and do the mouth here, and then we've also got to do the ears. So I'm going to switch this back to the background color of white now so we can see things a little bit easier here. And for the ears, I want these to be a pink, but I don't want to go too bright. Let's see if I would go, you know, something like this. I think it's going to be just way too bright for that color palette that we've already chose. So once again, I want it to be a little bit more muted, a little bit more warm. Maybe something like that would work. I think that looks pretty good there. So we'll go ahead and use that. Now let's get the mouth here. So with the mouth, dark mask, little bit lighter stripe here, and then even lighter head. So the mouth down here, I want it to be lighter than the actual head here. So we're going to jump off with that color and then just pull up the picker up here. Don't want it to be white, but at the same time, I don't want it to be too bright either like that. I don't want to have too much color in it. And this is why switching back to that white, we can see if we zoom in here, you can definitely tell that there is a difference in between the white and the mask. And I think that looks pretty good there. So I think that's the color we're going to go with. And then dropping this down here into the tail, that can be the color that we use down there as well. So you'll see here, like I said, we're using the gray values over here, but it really does kind of have that more brown, but not super brown. Like I said, I didn't want to go for this color here. Didn't really want to go for this is really, really obviously brown. So this is kind of in between. It has that warmth to it that I wanted to go for just because he's going to be fun and energetic and lively. So that's what I was shooting for with this. So next up, let's go ahead and turn on the logo here. This is going to help me kind of decide what colors I want to use on the shirt for the ringers. I think just leaving the shirt white's the way to go. I've already got that filled in, but the ringers are going to be different colors. So here I want them to tie into the logo. So we're left with three choices. We can either go with the blue, we can go with the yellow, or we can go with that pinkish coral color there. So for this, to make it easy to choose, I'm going to go ahead and make 3 new layers. And you're going to see this is a really quick way to be able to visualize which color looks better without having to constantly change them. So I'm going to drag and drop these onto one layer. Then I'm going to go back into the other layer underneath there. I'm going to drag and drop. Let's go ahead and turn off these pinks so you can see it. Drag and drop the yellows into there. And then the final layer is the blue. Drag and drop here. Now, just looking at that, I think I already want the eyes to be blue, so I'm going to go ahead and fill those in. I always seem to go with blue eyes for characters like this. Just think they pop a little bit more and they kind of draw you into the character. So that's usually kind of the color I go for. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and go back to the ringer colors that we laid in. So the first one we've got is the pink or the coral pink. So we've got that one. I don't really like this one all that much. And the reason why is because we've got these ears pink and these are 2 different colors. And I think with this, they're too close to the same without being the same. It just looks a little bit off. And I don't really want to change the ears to that because I think I like that more muted color up there. So let's go ahead and turn that one off and let's go to the yellow. And this one here, I just don't think it pops enough. That value that it has is kind of close to the same hues that I used throughout the rest of the body. So I think it kind of blends in a little bit too much. So then going to the blue, I think this one really pops quite a bit more just because, number one, this ringer here for the neck, super close to the eyes. So just it kind of immediately draws you in there, and it really makes you focus on the eyes and the expression. Just with having the blue here, it kind of leads your eyes up to the eyes. And I think that one looks really, really cool. So I think that's the one I'm going to go for. But there's a quick little tip and trick for you if you want to play around and see, okay, I've got, 3 or 4 different choices, which one looks better. Just make a bunch of different layers, and using that reference, you can just fill these in really quick and then turn them on and off just for the sake of comparison, and makes it a lot easier to decide and a lot quicker than going back and forth and refilling everything in over and over again just so you can decide. I know some people too will clear out of here, go back to the canvas gallery selection and copy that one and make a new one, and then save the image with 2 different color schemes to see which one looks better. And I just find this way to be a lot easier and a lot faster. So there we go. We've got that. Last thing I need to do here, I think, is the iPad screen. So we'll get that in there, and then also the Apple Pencil. So get that filled in here as well. All right. We'll turn this back on. So there we go. That is my complete process, kind of the thoughts that I go through, how I look at things when I decide how to pick a color palette for a design. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through my process of taking this design then and adding shadows and highlights to it, how I'm going to pick the things for that. A lot of times with these designs, I'll go in with just black and drop the opacity, but I think for this one, it's going to be a little bit different. So definitely stay tuned for that video. That'll be coming up soon enough. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. I've also got the new podcast, Make Money with Your Art. If you're an artist that's looking to make some just pocket change, doing a little side hustle with your art, or maybe even possibly turn it into a full-time career, definitely check that out. I cover different platforms that I sell on and how I make money with my art. You can find it wherever podcasts are. Link it in the description below. It'll take you to whatever provider that you have on your phone or your tablet or your computer, whatever. And last but not least, the Facebook group, Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists. Definitely check that out. I'll link that in the description below. A place where you can share your art, give feedback, get feedback, and meet cool people, other artists like yourself. Want you guys to be a part of it, so definitely hop on over and join. And that's it for today's video. So until next time, keep creating.